How would you feel about school taking up an extra hour every day to teach basic, adult stuff, like washing clothes, basic cooking, paying taxes? I'd be opposed to the extra hour. But not the activities. School was already an 8-hour-a-day thing. Pushing it up to 9 hours means it actually becomes longer than a full-time job. And that's before you get to homework and shit like that. If anything, the school day should be shorter. Or keep it 8 hours in the building, but leave 2 or 3 of those for students to work on homework with a teacher around when they need help, guidance, or just for them to socialize in a somewhat structured way. Expecting teens to maintain any level of engagement and discipline for 8 hours straight is psychotic. It's a system built by nerds and sadists. Yep, kids are already overworked as are adults. We'd all benefit from a reduction in work. Yep, kids are already overworked as are adults. We'd all benefit from a reduction in work. But school is just too long, he spoke. For all us tiny younger folk, whose lives are hard enough ahead. For years to come. And that's a joke. With just a little time, he said. An extra hour or 2 in bed. We'd all be sweet and starry-eyed. And well prepared to work instead. And though his words were justified, his teacher sadly so replied. Just wait until you're old, he sighed. Just wait until you're old, he sighed. Damn, that's some fresh sprog. TBH, I've been pretty poor most of my 20s, scraping paycheck to paycheck, working part-time gigs, and you know what? I wouldn't trade all that time slacking off and enjoying myself and playing dumb video games and shit for all the money in the world. Goddamn priceless. What the fuck do we even work for when we just spend our weekends recovering for the week ahead? It's so fucked that this can't be done in the USA. The whole thing is utterly rigged from the start to break you. TBH, I have so far found work to be a lot less stressful and time-consuming than school. Definitely depends on the job and the school, but it was just funny, like old fellas were all, just wait till you get a job. And then I did, and I was like, dang, you mean I don't have to stay up till 2 a.m. every other night just to get decent grades? Yes. I have a professional, salaried job where I'm expected to be available nearly 24/7. And the number of extra hours I put in is a tiny fraction of the time high schoolers are expected to spend working on homework. Preparing you for the real world, my ass. I always told people that the most workload-heavy period of my life was when I was in high school. Even my master's degree was a breeze compared to high school. And a full-time job is just like school but with a paycheck and without homework. You chose to do it that way. And that's good on you, and the reason your master's came relatively easy to you. You could have chosen to do basically nothing and probably you'd have been mostly okay. I did. But I then failed at university. Choosing to put in hard work with no one really forcing you is a skill. Arguably, school is longer than work when you factor in stuff like sports. 100% this. In high school I would show up early, 6:30 a.m., for weights, go to class until 3, then have practice until 5. Depending on the sport I might even stay later with some teammates for extra drills, batting practice, watching film of our opponent. Edit. I'm completely on board with teaching real-life practical things mentioned. I hated art, so remove that and add this and I'm happy. Obviously my dislike of art isn't universal. Give high schoolers the option of removing an extracurricular for this. There's also a lot of kids that have to work while in school. There was a long period of time where I would wake up early for school, get off school to go to work, get home from work to do homework, get done with homework and get straight to bed so that I wouldn't be insanely tired to do it all the next day. Heck, I knew kids in my class that had to pay all the bills because their parents were junkies, unable to land a job, whatever else. They had zero social lives outside of school and were failing in school because they had a lot on their plates and weren't even legal adults yet. Yeah, homework has gotten out of control. Yes, it is good to study outside of class, but when I was in school they said they wanted you to put in an hour on your own for every hour in class. Fine. Then shorten the school day. I am an adult and still can't do that. We all know there's only 6 hours a day max of productive work in an 8-hour day. I guess if you have an office job. I work 12s at the hospital and there are days I never sit. This strikes at a core difference in work. Medical staff have an entirely different environment than, for instance, a programmer like myself. When I've sat for a long period of time focusing, there's no one who needs me. When my brain gets tired, there's no significant external stimuli to keep it going, and even if there were, the code doesn't magically appear on the screen just because I will it. Meanwhile, medical staff do have these external stimuli. There is that thing to be done, there is that patient who needs you, etc. It's actually one of the things I miss in this job. I always have work to do, but the work is always so abstract and can always be postponed, explained away, etc. You always have to actively find meaning in your work as a programmer. You always have to connect these entirely abstract things to the real world. My girlfriend owns a cafe, and it's so refreshing coming there and doing the occasional job. Nothing is abstract, everything just is. People think I'm this great boyfriend who helps her out fixing shit and stuff, but truth is a lot of that is just me escaping into reality. Doing a job where things make sense without having to expend energy forcing it to make sense. Note: I love my work. My high school had a great way of dealing with this. Tuesdays we had first, third, fifth, and seventh period classes for twice the normal length of time. Wednesdays were second, fourth, and sixth periods also extended. 3 Wednesdays of the week, we had access, which took up the last class of the day. It was basically a free period for the entire school. You could go to teachers in their main classroom if you needed their help with classwork, homework. You could study, get caught up on any classwork or homework that you were behind on, or do anything 9 nanograms else that you wanted to. The only thing you couldn't do was leave campus because it was still considered school time. The remaining week was just a short day where you got to go home immediately after 6th period. It really helped just about everyone get better grades. Most people did better in school because they got to study with teachers one-on-one or in small groups of 5 or so students at their own pace. Others took some much-needed relaxing time away from both homework and home. Edit. We also had 7-hour school days, from 8:30 to 3:30. It's fucking madness that high schoolers take 7 courses at once. It's way too many subjects at once to learn well, and there's too much chance for a stupid amount of homework. It should be 3 to 4 classes a quarter like in university. In the UK is pretty standard to take between 7 to 10 subjects between the ages of 13 to 16. That then drops to 3 to 5 age 16 to 18.